sleep with me tonight?" asked the lonely millionaire to the housemaid. She paused, but when she saw his eyes, deep, vulnerable, almost pleading, her heart skipped a beat. There was something about him, beyond the opulence, beyond the expensive suits and towering mansion, that whisper of a man who had lived a life of longing and emptiness. His youth was apparent, yet his loneliness aged him in ways money could never touch. She hesitated, the words hanging in the air like fragile glass, glittering yet threatening to shatter. Her mind raced with the propriety and scandal such a proposition could cause, but something deeper stirred within her. Compassion? Curiosity? Or perhaps the tiny spark of attraction that had been quietly growing over the months she had been working in his vast, echoing mansion? When he stepped closer, she could feel the warmth radiating off him, the subtle tension of desire mingling with genuine vulnerability. I don't know," she whispered, her fingers nervously clutching the hem of her apron. He reached out gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. "I don't want to pressure you," he said softly, his voice breaking just enough to reveal the raw loneliness behind his carefully curated charm. I've never felt like this before. I've never wanted someone like I want you." Her gaze met his, and for a moment, the world outside the sprawling walls of the mansion didn't exist. The servants' quarters, the distant sound of the city, the ticking of the grand clock in the hall, all faded away. There was only him and the strange, intoxicating pull between them. She took a hesitant step closer. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a courage in her eyes now, a willingness to see beyond the fear and into the truth of her own heart. He smiled, a slow, heart-stirring smile that seemed to light up the room. "And you're unlike anyone I've ever known," he replied, his hand lingering just near hers, the air between them thick with unspoken longing. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. It was impossible to tell. Their world had shrunk to the space between their gazes, to the gentle brush of skin as he finally took her hand, warm and alive in his own. The distance between servant and master, between caution and desire, seemed to dissolve under the weight of their unspoken connection. Finally, she spoke, her words trembling yet full of resolve. "Maybe, tonight, we just hold each other. See if we could be more than this loneliness." He nodded, a glimmer of relief and longing mingling in his eyes. "I would like that," he said, and as they moved to the small, cozy room he had prepared, it wasn't about wealth or status or the world outside. It was about two young hearts, scared yet yearning, discovering a connection that had nothing to do with titles or riches, and everything to do with love. As the door closed behind them, the moonlight spilled across the room, illuminating the subtle contours of their faces, the faint blush that betrayed their nerves, and the quiet anticipation of a night where intimacy was measured not in passion alone, but in the trust and warmth they were daring to share. Her fingers brushed his cheek, and he leaned into the touch, his breath catching. "I never imagined someone like you," he began, but she silenced him with a soft smile, a gentle shake of her head. "Let's not imagine," she whispered. "Let's just feel." And so, in the quiet of the night, in a room filled with shadows and moonlight, two young souls, one a lonely millionaire, the other a humble housemaid, began to discover a love neither had dared to hope for, a love that promised warmth, passion, and the kind of connection that could change the course of their lives forever. Her heart raced as he pulled her close, and for the first time in the luxury and loneliness that had defined his life, he felt the kind of peace that came not from money, but from being truly seen, truly understood, and truly loved. Her warmth pressed against him, soft and hesitant, yet carrying a bravery he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just her body he longed for. It was her presence, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against his, the quiet courage that dared to step into the unknown alongside him. He brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her skin, savoring the delicate connection that had ignited between them. "You're so different from everyone else," he murmured, his lips near her temple. "I can't explain it, but I feel like I've been waiting for this my whole life." She tilted her head slightly, letting confession sink in, letting it reach the part of her that had always dreamed of being seen, not for what she did or for what she could offer, but simply for who she was. I I never thought someone like you could notice me, she whispered, her voice trembling but full of emotion. I've always been just invisible. He tightened his embrace, his cheek resting against hers. You're not invisible to me. Never again, he said softly, his words like a promise etched into the quiet night. I've had everything, money, cars, parties, but none of it has ever mattered. None of it has ever made me feel alive. Not until now. Her breath hitched, her heart pounding. The way he looked at her was unlike anything she had experienced before. A mixture of desire, admiration, and an almost unbearable longing. She felt her knees weaken, but he steadied her, his hands gentle yet firm, grounding her in the moment. I don't know if I should, she started, but he silenced her with a gentle shake of his head. No rules tonight, he whispered, his lips brushing her hair. No expectations. Just us. Just discovering. And so they stayed like that for a while, wrapped in each other's arms, the room around them fading into shadows and moonlight. Every brush of skin against skin, every soft sigh and whispered word, was a delicate dance of intimacy, not lust, not obligation, but an awakening a heart's long starve for connection. She traced the line of his jaw, feeling the warmth beneath her fingertips, and he shivered at the touch. You're breathtaking, he said, his voice barely audible, almost reverent. I can't believe someone like you exists and that you're here with me. Her cheeks flushed, but a smile curved her lips. You make me feel like I matter, she confessed, her voice soft and quivering. Like I'm not just a maid or someone who cleans and cooks, but something more. He pressed his forehead against hers, inhaling her scent, feeling the vulnerability and trust she was offering him. You are more. You're everything I never knew I needed, he said, his hands gently cupping her face, afraid to let go even for a moment. Tonight, I just want to hold you, feel you, know you. That's all I've ever wanted. Her fingers intertwined with his, and she leaned into his embrace, feeling a strange mix of safety and thrill. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every brush of lips and fingertips charged with electricity, as though their souls were recognizing each other after years of wandering in solitude. I've never felt like this before, she whispered. He kissed her forehead, then her temple, slow and reverent, exploring without haste, savoring each moment as though it were the first and last. Nor have I, he admitted. I've always been surrounded by people, by wealth and attention, but I've never truly been touched like this, by someone who sees me, really sees me. A quiet silence settled over them, broken only by the soft sound of their breathing. She rested her head on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, feeling the warmth radiating from him. It's strange how fast everything changes, she murmured. One moment I was just me, and now I feel like we've been meant to find each other all along. He tightened his arms around her, a protective, almost desperate hold. Maybe we have, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know the future or what tomorrow will bring. But tonight, I know that I want you by my side. Not because of anything else, because of you. Tears threatened her eyes, a mixture of happiness, relief, and the overwhelming intensity of the moment. I've dreamed of someone seeing me like this, she admitted, her voice catching. Someone who cares about more than what I do or who I am in the world. And now it's real. You're real. He pressed a gentle kiss to her lips, soft and lingering, tasting the quiet trust that had blossomed between them. Their kiss deepened gradually, not rushed, as if every second was a discovery, every movement a revelation of something neither had expected but both had been yearning for. His hands moved with reverence over her back, her shoulders, never forcing, always inviting, creating a sacred rhythm of closeness. Hold me, she whispered against his lips. Just hold me tonight. I don't want to think. I just want to feel. He did, cradling her against him, allowing her to sink into his embrace, letting the outside world dissolve completely. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every whispered word was a bridge across the distance that life had imposed between them. The gap of status, the gap of fear, the gap of loneliness. Time seemed to slow. The moonlight painted their faces in silver, highlighting the softness in their expressions, the way her eyelashes fluttered against her cheeks, the warmth of his skin under her hands. It was a night suspended between reality and dream, a night where two young hearts discovered the raw, unspoken intimacy of being known and accepted without pretense. She shifted slightly, looking up at him, her eyes glistening. "I've never felt so safe," she admitted, "and yet so alive." He brushed his lips against her temple, whispering softly, "You're my world tonight, and maybe my world forever. I've spent so long alone, but with you, I feel complete." Her hand traced a line of his collarbone, and he shivered at the touch. "Do you really mean that?" she asked, her voice barely audible, trembling with hope. "I do," he replied, his forehead resting against hers. "More than I've ever meant anything to anyone." They stayed like that, tangled in each other's arms, the quiet rhythm of the night around them, the mansion outside sleeping while they discovered a new world within the walls of that small, intimate room. Each whisper, each touch, each heartbeat was a promise that tonight was not merely a fleeting escape, but the beginning of something profound, something neither money nor status could buy. She pressed her lips to his chest, closing her eyes, letting the steady beat of his heart guide her into a sense of belonging she had never known. And he held her closer, feeling the fragile beginnings of love, the dangerous yet thrilling spark that had ignited in their hearts, promising warmth, passion, and a connection that could change their lives forever. As the night stretched on, they moved in harmony, learning the delicate balance of intimacy, trust, and desire. It wasn't only about physical closeness. It was about being present, being vulnerable, being fearless together. Every sigh, every whisper, every touch carried the weight of emotions they had never dared to voice, yet were now shared without hesitation. Her lips curved into a soft smile as she looked up at him. "I think I could stay like this forever," she whispered. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "So could I," he replied. "So could I." The room was silent except for the sound of their breathing, the warmth of their bodies intertwined, and the quiet understanding that something extraordinary had begun, a love neither had expected, a love that had grown out of loneliness and longing, yet had transformed into a promise of togetherness, intimacy, and unspoken devotion. And in that suspended, magical night, two young hearts, one a lonely millionaire, the other a humble housemaid, discovered that love could bloom in the most unlikely places, that passion could be gentle, and that the heart's truest desire was not wealth or status, but to be seen, cherished, and loved without condition. The first light of dawn crept through the heavy curtains, spilling across the room in gentle gold streaks that danced over their entwined forms. She stirred slightly in his arms, her head resting against his chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat guiding her into a quiet, dreamlike awakening. For a moment, neither spoke, content to exist in the warm cocoon they had created, a world apart from the vast mansion and the burdens of the outside world. He shifted slightly, brushing a strand of hair from her face and tucking it behind her ear, his touch lingering, reverent. "Good morning," he whispered, his voice husky with sleep and emotion. She opened her eyes slowly, meeting his gaze, and the intensity there made her pulse quicken. "Morning," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. A small smile curved her lips, shy yet confident, as though the night they had shared had drawn a new strength from her, a courage she hadn't known she possessed. He tilted his head, studying her, drinking in every detail, the softness of her skin, the delicate arch of her eyebrows, the faint blush still lingering on her cheeks from their closeness. "You're beautiful," he murmured, the words carrying a weight beyond mere compliment. "Not just last night, but right now, in the quiet of the morning. You're everything." Her heart fluttered, a warmth spreading through her chest. "You make me feel alive," she admitted, her fingers brushing against his hand. "Like I belong somewhere, like I matter." He tightened his hand around hers, holding it with an intensity that spoke of unspoken vows. "You matter to me more than anything," he said softly. "Last night, it wasn't just about physical closeness. It was about discovering you, seeing you, really seeing you, and realizing I've been missing this someone like you." She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I was afraid," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Afraid of what it meant, afraid of what people would say, afraid of being too small, too insignificant for someone like you." He cupped her face gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You're not insignificant," he said firmly. "Never in my eyes. You're extraordinary. And if anyone else can't see it, it doesn't matter. I do. I've seen it all along, even when I couldn't admit it to myself." A gentle silence fell over them, filled with a quiet understanding that the barriers of fear and hesitation were beginning to crumble. Her hand lingered against his chest, tracing the faint contours of his heart, as if she could memorize its rhythm, imprint herself upon it. "I don't know what comes next," she admitted softly. "I don't know if I'm ready for everything." He smiled, brushing his lips against her forehead. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said reassuringly. "Tonight was a first step. Tomorrow, the next. And every day after, we'll learn together. No rush, no pressure. Just us." She leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder. "I think I can do that," she murmured. "With you, I think I can." He kissed the top of her head, holding her close as the sunlight grew stronger, casting a warm glow across the room. Outside, the city stirred to life, but inside, time seemed to stand still. For once, the world beyond the mansion's walls didn't matter. What mattered was the closeness they shared, the fragile yet undeniable bond that had begun to weave itself between their hearts. As the morning wore on, he reluctantly pulled away to help her up, the playful glint in his eyes teasing her despite the tenderness in his expression. "Come on," he said, offering his hand. "Breakfast isn't going to make itself, and I have a feeling the cook will be very curious about our absence last night." She laughed softly, a melodic sound that made him grin. "I think I'm ready," she said, taking his hand and allowing him to guide her out of the bedroom. Every touch, every glance, every small smile was a silent affirmation of the connection that had blossomed between them, a promise that the night had been only the beginning. Downstairs, the grandeur of the mansion seemed almost irrelevant in the face of the intimacy they had shared. The servants went about their duties, some casting curious glances, but the air around them felt charged with something more profound than gossip or propriety. He led her to the breakfast table, his hand never leaving hers, and she felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the morning sun. As they sat across from each other, the clatter of cutlery and soft murmurs of the staff fading into the background, he reached across the table, taking her hand again. "You know," he said softly, "I've spent my whole life thinking I needed everything, wealth, power, recognition. But last night, I realized what I really needed was you." She blushed, her heart fluttering. "And I've spent my whole life thinking I would never be noticed, never be chosen, never be loved like that," she admitted. "But now, I feel like maybe I was meant to be here, with you." He smiled, his eyes lighting up with emotion so pure it took her breath away. "You were," he said simply. "You've always been the one I was searching for, even if I didn't know it. And now that I've found you, I'm not letting go." The rest of breakfast passed in a soft, almost dreamlike haze. They spoke in gentle tones, laughter mingling with quiet confessions, their hands brushing occasionally, each touch sending shivers of anticipation through them. The boundaries of master and maid, of status and expectation, had all but vanished in the glow of the intimacy they had shared. Later, when the house was quieter, he led her to the garden, a secluded space bathed in sunlight and fragrant blooms. The air was warm, carrying the scent of roses and jasmine, and the world outside seemed impossibly distant. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "I don't want to rush anything," he said softly, "but I want to show you every day how much you mean to me." She closed her eyes, savoring the sensation of being held, being chosen, being seen. I want that too," she whispered. "I want everything with you. If you'll let me." "I will," he promised, his voice steady, unwavering. "Everything, every step, every moment, we'll face it together." The days stretched on, each moment filled with quiet gestures of affection, stolen glances, and lingering touches that spoke louder than any words could. In the afternoons, they would walk to the garden, sharing stories of their childhoods, laughing over small memories, and discovering the ways in which their lives, so different in circumstance, mirrored each other in hope and longing. As evening approached, The mansion transformed into a place of intimacy once more. The golden light of dusk bathed the rooms in warmth, and they found themselves drawn to the same room where the night before had changed everything. Sitting together, she leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest. "I never imagined life could feel like this," she murmured. "So full, so real, so us." He kissed the top of her hair, his hands gently caressing her back. "Life is more than what we see on the surface," he said softly. "And I think we just scratched the beginning of what we can have together. Love, passion, trust, all of it. And it starts with nights like this, mornings like today, and every moment in between." She lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes. "Then let's not waste a single moment," she said, her voice filled with determination and desire. "Let's explore everything. Together." He smiled, a slow, heart-stirring smile that made her pulse race. "Together," he agreed, and as the evening deepened into night, they held each other close once more, two young hearts daring to embrace love in its purest, most intoxicating form, passionate yet tender, exhilarating yet safe, and above all theirs. Every touch, every whispered word, every lingering kiss was a promise of discovery, of intimacy, of a love that would grow deeper with each passing day. In the quiet of the mansion, with the world beyond its walls unaware, they began a journey neither had imagined possible, yet both had longed for in secret, a journey that would intertwine their lives forever, body and soul, heart and heart. The mansion grew quieter as the night deepened. The grand halls empty except for the soft echoes of their footsteps and the gentle rustle of clothing as they moved together. She felt the anticipation rising in her chest, not from impatience, but from the thrilling knowledge that every moment with him was uncharted territory, a new chapter in a story they were writing together. He led her to the balcony overlooking the sprawling gardens, the moon casting silver reflections across the manicured lawns. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of jasmine and roses, and she shivered slightly, not from a chill but from the electricity of his presence beside her. His arms circled her waist, drawing her close, and she rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear. "I can't stop thinking about you," he murmured, his voice low and trembling with emotion. "Even when I'm busy, even when the world calls it obligations, it's you I think about. You here in my arms. You in my mind, in my heart." Her lips curved into a soft smile, and she lifted her gaze to meet his. "I think about you, too," she admitted, her fingers brushing against his chest. "I've never felt like this before. It's terrifying and yet exhilarating. I feel awake in a way I've never known." He tilted his head, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, his thumb lingering on her cheek. "That's how I feel, too," he confessed. "Every time I look at you, it's like the world sharpens. Colors are brighter. Sounds are clearer, and everything that once felt meaningless suddenly has purpose. Because of you." Her heart fluttered, a warmth spreading through her chest. She had never imagined a connection so intense, so consuming, yet so gentle in its way. I don't know how to explain it," she whispered. "It's like everything I've ever wanted I didn't even know I was searching for, and then I found you." He pulled her into his arms, holding her close as if afraid to let her go. "You found me, too," he said softly. "I was lost in my life, in my loneliness, thinking I had everything, but I had nothing. Until you." The night stretched on, their bodies swaying slightly against each other in a quiet rhythm, as if the world itself had paused to watch them. Every brush of skin against skin, every whisper, every gentle kiss, was a language of love they both understood instinctively. There was no rush, no pressure. Only the slow, deliberate discovery of intimacy, of trust, of hearts opening to one another. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw, and he shivered at the touch, leaning into her hand. "You're intoxicating," he murmured. "Not just beautiful, but captivating. I can't get enough of you. I can't imagine being anywhere else but here with you." She pressed her lips to his chest, closed her eyes and breathing in his scent, a mixture of cologne and something uniquely him. "I feel the same," she whispered. "I've never known a love like this, so consuming, so tender, so real." He tilted his head down, capturing her lips in a soft, lingering kiss, tasting the trust and vulnerability she offered. Their kiss deepened gradually, not hurriedly, a slow exploration that left them both trembling with anticipation and desire. His hands roamed gently across her back, drawing her closer, while her fingers threaded through his hair, anchoring herself to him as though he were her lifeline. "I want to know everything about you," he whispered against her lips. "Your dreams, your fears, your past, your hopes, everything. And I want you to know mine too. No secrets, no barriers. Just us." She pulled back slightly, her forehead resting against his. "I want that too," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "I want to be yours completely, to trust you completely, to give myself to you in every way." He smiled, brushing his lips against her temple. "Then we will," he promised. "Every day, every night, in every way. We'll learn together, grow together, and love each other completely." The moon climbed higher, casting a gentle glow over their bodies as they stood on the balcony, wrapped in each other's embrace. The world beyond seemed impossibly distant, irrelevant in comparison to the intimacy they shared. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every whispered word was a promise of love, of passion, of a connection that neither wealth nor status could diminish. She lifted her gaze to the stars, feeling the vastness of the sky mirrored in the depth of her emotions. "It's overwhelming," she admitted, "the way I feel about you. It's like every part of me is alive, awake, and longing at the same time." He rested his forehead against hers, inhaling her scent and feeling the warmth radiating from her body. "That's love," he whispered. "The kind that takes you by surprise, that overwhelms you, that makes you feel alive in ways you never imagined. And I've never felt it like this until you." Her lips curved into a small, shy smile, and she pressed a gentle kiss to his chest. "Then we'll feel it together," she said softly. "Every moment, every day. And we won't let anything take it away." He held her tighter, as if afraid that any loosening of his embrace might break the fragile perfection of the moment. "Nothing ever will," he promised. "Not the world, not expectations, not anything. You and I were unbreakable." Hours passed in a haze of whispered confessions, soft kisses, and gentle touches. The night was theirs alone, a sacred space where vulnerability became strength, where desire became tenderness, and where two young hearts discovered that love could bloom in the most unexpected places. She rested her head against his chest again, feeling the steady beat of his heart. And for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of a future, one filled with passion, tenderness, and a love that was as real as it was consuming. "I never thought life could feel like this," she whispered, her fingers tracing the line of his collarbone. "So full, so bright, so perfect in a way I didn't know existed." He kissed the top of her hair, holding her close. "Life is full of surprises," he said softly. "And sometimes the most unexpected ones are the most beautiful. You're the most beautiful surprise I've ever known." The night stretched into the early hours, the world around them silent, the mansion asleep, and yet inside, their hearts beat with a wild, intoxicating rhythm. Every touch, every word, every kiss was a declaration of love, of trust, of a bond that had been forged in vulnerability and desire, in longing and discovery. As the first hints of dawn approached once more, they finally settled into the soft embrace of the bed, the warmth of their bodies mingling, the intimacy of their connection deepening with each passing second. She pressed her lips to his chest, inhaling deeply, letting the steady rise and fall of his breathing lull her into a sense of peace she had never known. "I love you," she whispered, her voice trembling but sincere. "I don't know how it happened so fast, but I do. I love you." He pressed his lips to her forehead, closing his eyes and letting the words settle between them like a sacred vow. "I love you, too," he murmured, "more than I've ever loved anyone. And I promise this is only the beginning. A lifetime of love, passion, and everything in between. Together." She smiled softly, her fingers entwining with his. "Together," she echoed. And in that moment, under the soft glow of the approaching dawn, they both knew that their lives had changed forever. Love had found them the most unexpected of ways, and now, nothing, Not time, not distance, not circumstance could ever take it away. They drifted into a quiet, contented sleep, hearts still beating in sync, bodies entwined, and minds filled with the promise of a love that was only just beginning, a love that would grow, evolve, and deepen with every passing day, a love that was as tender as it was passionate, as thrilling as it was safe, and as real as the hearts that had finally found each other in the vastness of the world. The first week after that night passed in a strange, intoxicating blur. The mansion, with all its grandeur and echoes of wealth, had transformed in her eyes. It was no longer just a place of duty, cleaning, and chores. It had become a stage for moments that neither of them had expected, moments that made the heart race and the mind forget everything else. She found herself lingering near him more often, offering excuses to be in his presence, to hear the timbre of his laughter, or to see the warmth in his eyes when he looked at her. It wasn't just attraction anymore. It was something deeper, a magnetic pull that neither wealth nor status could explain. He noticed her subtle hesitations, the small smiles that flitted across her lips when he entered a room, the way her fingers lingered near his arm when passing by. And he responded in kind, not with grand gestures or declarations, but with quiet, deliberate touches. A hand resting briefly on her lower back, a brush of his fingers against hers when handing her something, a lingering look that spoke volumes without a single word. One afternoon, he found her in the library, quietly dusting the shelves, her hair pulled back loosely, the sunlight catching the delicate strands that framed her face. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching her with an intensity that made her heart stutter. "You work too hard," he said softly, stepping into the room. "Do you ever stop to breathe?" She laughed lightly, a melodic sound that seemed to fill the room. "I suppose I do sometimes," she replied, trying to sound casual even as her pulse quickened under his gaze. "But someone has to keep this place in order." He shook his head, moving closer until he was mere inches from her. "And yet here you are, managing to be the most captivating part of this house," he murmured, his voice low, almost reverent. "I can't seem to look away." Her cheeks flushed, and she glanced down at her hands, fumbled with the cloth she had been using. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Then don't," he replied simply, his fingers brushing gently against hers. That fleeting touch, light as a whisper, sent shivers up her spine, and she felt an undeniable pull toward him. "Just stay here with me for a moment," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "We don't need words. Just presence. That's enough." And so they stood there in the quiet of the library, breathing the same air, feeling the unspoken desire growing between them. Every glance, every brush of skin, every soft sigh was an exploration, a careful dance of intimacy that neither had experienced so openly before. Days turned into evenings and evenings into nights. They found excuses to be together, even when alone time was a luxury in the sprawling mansion. A shared cup of tea in the early morning, a quiet conversation in the garden as the sun dipped below the horizon, a gentle touch while arranging books in the library. All became small, treasured rituals. Each moment was charged with a tension that was both thrilling and comforting, a delicate balance of longing and security. One evening, as the sky turned a deep shade of violet and stars began to pierce the darkness, he found her sitting on the balcony, her knees drawn to her chest, staring at the distant city lights. He approached quietly, not wanting to startle her, but she felt his presence instantly. "You're thinking too much," he said softly, sliding into the space beside her. "Always thinking, always planning. Sometimes you just need to feel." She glanced at him, a small smile tugging at her lips. "It's hard not to think when everything feels so intense," she admitted. "You make it hard to stay calm, to act normal." He chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Good," he whispered, "because I don't want normal. I don't want calm. I want us. Wild, unpredictable, intense. And I want to explore every part of you. Your fears, your dreams, your laughter, your tears. I want to know everything." Her breath hitched, and she leaned slightly into him, finding comfort in the warmth of his body. "I've never had anyone say things like that to me," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I've never felt wanted in this way." "You are wanted," he said firmly, taking her hand in his. Every day, every hour. And I don't just want you for the night or for the thrill. I want you for all the days to come. For the mornings, the afternoons, the nights. I want to be the one you wake up to, the one you fall asleep next to, the one who holds you when the world feels too heavy. She turned her face toward him, eyes glistening with unshed tears. And I want that too, she whispered. I've never allowed myself to hope for it. Not really. But with you, I feel like I can. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers, the heat of their breath mingling. Then hope, he said softly. Hope with me. And trust me, I'll never hurt you, never take you for granted. You're everything to me. Her heart swelled with emotion, and she pressed her lips to his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her hands. I trust you, she whispered, completely. From that night onward, their relationship deepened in ways neither could have anticipated. The mansion, once a place of strict roles and social distance, became a sanctuary for their growing love. They shared stolen moments in the gardens, secret glances across the dining hall, and lingering touches that left them both trembling with desire. The tension between them was electric, a constant undercurrent that made every interaction charged with meaning. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves alone in the music room, the soft patter of rain against the windows creating a cocoon of intimacy. He took her hand, guiding her to the piano, and she laughed softly at his insistence. Do you really think I can play? She asked, her fingers hovering over the keys. You don't have to play perfectly, he said, smiling warmly. Just play with me. Let the music be ours, like everything else. Her fingers touched the keys hesitantly, producing a soft, tentative melody. He leaned close, his hand covering hers, guiding her movements. Their laughter mingled with the notes, creating a harmony that was both playful and deeply intimate. Every brush of skin against skin, every shared glance, every heartbeat in sync was a testament to the bond growing between them. When the song ended, she turned to him, eyes shining. I've never felt this happy, she admitted. Not like this, not with anyone. And I've never felt this complete, he replied, his voice low and full of emotion. You've changed my life in ways I can't describe. You make me want to be more than I ever thought I could be. For you, for us. Their lips met in a slow, tender kiss, lingering and deliberate, as if to seal the promise that had begun in the bedroom and now stretched into every corner of their lives. The music room, the rain, the quiet intimacy, all became part of the story they were writing together, a story of love, passion, and the delicate discovery of hearts entwined. As the night deepened, he held her close, whispering soft promises, and she rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. The mansion outside was vast and silent, but inside, their world was small, warm, and alive. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered word wove a tapestry of love that neither time nor circumstance could unravel. And in that space, surrounded by shadows and the gentle rhythm of the rain, they began to understand the true meaning of love, its patience, its intensity, its tenderness, and its power to transform two young hearts forever. The days that followed became a delicate dance of longing, affection, and subtle intimacy. Every corner of the mansion seemed to hold traces of their connection. The library, where whispered confessions had first been exchanged, now carried the scent of perfume mingling with the faint aroma of old books. The gardens, which had once been merely manicured and distant, became a haven for quiet walks and lingering touches, the space between them shrinking with every heartbeat. She found herself anticipating his presence in ways she had never imagined. Each time he entered a room, her pulse quickened, a fluttering anticipation coursing through her. She caught herself staring at him, captivated not just by his physical presence, but by the subtle warmth, the vulnerability he allowed her to see. He had carefully built walls around his life, walls of status, wealth, and detachment. But with her, those walls were crumbling. She could see glimpses of the boy beneath the millionaire, the young man whose laughter, his hesitations, his quiet longing revealed the tender heart he hid so well. And he, in turn, became attentive in ways that went beyond the surface. Small gestures, a hand lingering on her lower back, a brush of his fingers against hers, a subtle smile when their eyes met, were enough to set her heart racing. He began to seek moments where he could be close to her without pretense. A shared cup of tea on the terrace, a playful conversation in the kitchen while preparing meals together, or quiet evenings where their legs brushed under the table and their glances spoke volumes that words could not. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low and bathed the mansion in warm amber, he found her in the conservatory, tending to the flowers. She looked radiant in the sunlight, the soft fabric of her dress catching the glow, and he stopped in his tracks, utterly captivated. "You've been here a long time," he said softly, stepping closer. She looked up, startled, then smiled shyly. "I lost track of time," she replied, brushing her fingers over a bloom. "They're delicate. They need attention." He tilted his head, watching her, a smile tugging at his lips. "And yet, even the flowers pale in comparison," he murmured. "You have this radiance about you. It's impossible not to notice." Her cheeks warmed, and she looked down, fumbling with the petals. "You make me feel unworthy sometimes," she admitted softly. "Like I'm not supposed to be here, with someone like you." He knelt down slightly, taking her hand gently in his. "You're more than worthy," he said earnestly. "You're extraordinary. And I don't just want you here because you're beautiful or captivating. I want you here because of who you are, every part of you." Her pulse quickened, and she met his gaze, a mixture of longing and nervous excitement in her eyes. "And what if I'm afraid?" she whispered. "Afraid of how this feels, afraid of being hurt?" He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing softly against her cheeks. "Then I'll be patient," he said, his voice low and unwavering. "I'll show you every day that this is real, that I am real, that nothing will hurt you, because I won't allow it. You are mine not in a possession sense, but in a way that matters, in a way that binds us together, heart to heart." Her lips trembled as tears threatened to spill. "I want that too," she confessed, her voice breaking slightly. "I want all of it. I've never dared to dream of someone like you caring so much, so completely." He leaned forward, capturing her lips in a slow, deliberate kiss. It was soft at first, tender, exploring, filled with a promise of what was to come. Then it deepened, their breaths mingling, their hearts beating in a shared rhythm. His hands roamed gently across her back, and she pressed closer, feeling the warmth of him radiating into her very soul. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless, their foreheads resting together, hearts hammering in sync. "I want to take my time with you," he whispered, "to explore every part of us, every day, every moment, every touch, to make sure that what we have is indestructible." "I want that too," she breathed, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "I've never felt anything like this, and I don't want to end." He smiled, brushing his lips against her temple, and she closed her eyes, savoring the warmth of his touch. "It won't end," he promised. "Not as long as we hold on to it. Not as long as we choose each other every day. This, what we have, it's rare, it's real, and I'll fight for it. I'll protect it, and I'll love you with everything I have." Days passed, each one intensifying the bond between them. They shared stolen moments in the early mornings, hidden conversations in empty corridors, and lingering touches that left both breathless and longing for more. There was a tension that was almost unbearable, a magnetic pull that neither could resist. Every time their hands brushed, every time their eyes met across a crowded room, the world seemed to shrink until it consisted of only the two of them. One evening, after a long walk in the gardens as the sun set, he stopped and turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "I can't pretend anymore," he said softly, taking both her hands in his. "I don't want to hide how I feel. I don't want to be patient in the way I was before. I want you now in every way possible. I want you to feel my love, my passion, my devotion, all of it, without hesitation." Her breath caught, and she pressed her hands to his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart against her palms. I want that too," she whispered, her voice trembling with desire and emotion. "I want all of you." He pulled her close, their bodies pressing together, and kissed her with a depth and intensity that left them both breathless. It was a kiss filled with longing, with love, with the promise of nights yet to come. Every touch, Every sigh, every shared breath was a declaration of their bond, a bond forged in desire, trust, and the quiet certainty that they had found in each other what neither had dared to hope for. As the night deepened, they retreated to the familiar comfort of the bedroom, the air thick with anticipation and tender passion. Every movement was careful, deliberate, as if they were learning each other's bodies, discovering the delicate balance between desire and intimacy, trust and surrender. His hands traced the lines of her shoulders and back, and she responded with equal tenderness, exploring the contours of him with gentle reverence. They paused often, breathing, holding each other close, whispering words of love and reassurance. "You're perfect," he murmured, his lips brushing against her temple. "More perfect than I ever imagined." "And you," she whispered back, pressing her forehead against his. "You make me feel alive, desired, safe, loved." Hours passed in a blissful rhythm of closeness. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered word deepening the intimacy that bound them. When finally they collapsed into each other's arms, exhausted but fulfilled, she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I never imagined," she murmured softly, "I never imagined love could feel like this. So complete, so consuming, so real." He pressed a gentle kiss to her hair. "It's only the beginning," he whispered. "A beginning of US, of love, of passion and devotion. Together. Nothing can touch us. Nothing can break this bond. We found something rare, something worth holding on to forever." She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of him seep into her bones, knowing that he was right. This was more than a fleeting passion or a fleeting connection. It was a love that had ignited in the quiet of the night and was now blazing through their days and nights with an intensity that neither had ever known. And as they drifted into sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, hearts beating in perfect synchrony, they both knew that the story of their love was only beginning, a story to grow with every day, every whispered promise, every tender touch, and every stolen moment in the world they had carved out just for themselves. The days that followed were filled with a quiet, simmering intensity that neither of them could resist. Every glance carried a charge, every touch lingered longer than necessary, and every word between them was loaded with the weight of unspoken desire. The mansion, vast and imposing, had become a secret world just for them, a sanctuary where love could unfold without interference, without judgment, without expectation. She found herself noticing him in ways she hadn't before. The way he furrowed his brows when thinking deeply, the slight tension in his shoulders when burdened with responsibility, the softness in his eyes when he looked at her. He wasn't just a millionaire with power and influence. He was a young man with vulnerabilities, insecurities, and capacity for tenderness that she hadn't anticipated. And he, in turn, noticed her in ways that went beyond beauty. He saw her laugh with abandon when alone with him, the quiet intensity in her gaze when concentrating, the gentle confidence that emerged in small acts of kindness or subtle defiance. She was more than a housemaid in his eyes. She was an equal in the world of hearts, a partner in a connection that neither could deny. One evening, after a long day where he had been ensnared by meetings and obligations, he found her in the sitting room, curled up with a book. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated her features, and he paused in the doorway, simply watching. The sight of her so relaxed, so serene, made his chest tighten with a longing he could no longer ignore. "You're still here," he said softly, stepping closer. She looked up, startled, then smiled. "I was waiting for you," she admitted, her voice carrying the faintest tremor of anticipation. He knelt beside her, leaning on the arm of the chair. "Waiting for me?" he asked, a teasing smile curving his lips. "Yes," she whispered, biting her lip nervously. I wanted to see you, even for a little while." His hand reached out, brushing her hair gently from her face, tucking it behind her ear. "You have no idea what it does to me, seeing you like this," he murmured. "I can't stop thinking about you, about us, about everything." Her heart fluttered, and she looked down, feeling a heat rise to her cheeks. "I think about you, too," she admitted softly. "All the time. I didn't realize how much I would want someone like you in my life." He smiled, leaning closer until their foreheads touched. "Then we don't have to hide it," he whispered. "Not anymore. I want you, all of you, whenever I can." I want to be close to feel you, to love you, in every way possible. Her fingers trace a line of his jaw, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. I want that too, she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and longing. I've never experienced anything like this. And yet, I can't imagine being without it, or you. He pressed his lips to her temple, then her forehead, savoring the softness of her skin, the warmth of her presence. Then don't, he said softly. Don't imagine a world without me, because I'm not going anywhere. As the evening deepened, he drew her into his arms, holding her as though the very act of being together could shield them from the rest of the world. Their bodies pressed close, but it was a connection of their hearts and minds that held the most power, the unspoken understanding that they had discovered something rare and precious, a love that transcended social boundaries, that defied expectation, that demanded surrender. Hours passed as they explored each other's emotions, their desires, their vulnerabilities. Every whispered confession, every shy caress, every lingering gaze deepened the intimacy between them. The mansion, once a place of walls and duty, had become a world of passion and tenderness, of shared secrets and mutual devotion. In the days that followed, their connection grew bolder. They found excuses to spend time alone. A walk in a rose garden before the sun rose, a quiet dinner in the empty dining hall, a secluded corner in a library where whispers and glances replaced the need for words. The tension between them was electric, a constant undercurrent that neither could resist. Every brush of fingers, every accidental touch, every shared laugh was a spark that ignited deeper longing. One rainy afternoon, he pulled her into conservatory, the scent of wet earth and blooming flowers surrounding them. The rain tapped softly against the glass, a gentle rhythm that mirrored the rising pulse in their veins. He took her hands in his, holding them tightly. I can't stay away from you, he confessed. Every moment apart feels like an eternity, and every moment with you feels like a dream I never want to wake from. She looked up at him, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I feel the same, she whispered. Every time you leave my side, I ache, and when you're near, I feel complete, whole, like I've finally found a place I belong. He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing gently over her cheeks. Then stay with me, he murmured. Not just tonight, not just in fleeting moments, but truly with me. Let me show you how deep this love can go. Let me prove that you are my everything. Her lips trembled as she leaned into his touch. I want that, she admitted softly. More than anything. He drew her close, pressing their lips together in a kiss that was slow, consuming, and entirely theirs. Every second stretched into eternity as they explored the boundaries of their desire, discovering the nuances of passion and intimacy that were as much about trust and vulnerability as they were about physical closeness. His hands roamed with reverence, never forcing, always inviting, and she responded in kind, her fingers tracing the contours of him with gentle curiosity and growing confidence. When they finally parted, both were breathless, hearts hammering in unison. He rested his forehead against hers, a soft smile tugging at his lips. This is only the beginning, he whispered. We have a lifetime to explore each other, to love each other, to discover every depth of what we feel. And I promise, I will never let go. She pressed her lips to his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, feeling the warmth of him seep into her very being. I believe you, she whispered, and I want all of it, with you, forever. The night continued, a dance of whispered words, gentle touches, and quiet laughter. The rain outside created a cocoon of intimacy, isolating them from the world and allowing their love to blossom unrestrained. Each moment was a testament to their growing devotion, to the passion that bound them, and to the trust that made them feel invincible in each other's arms. By the time the storm passed and the first light of dawn crept through the glass panes, they were wrapped in each other's embrace, hearts beating together in perfect harmony. They had discovered a love that was fierce yet tender, consuming yet safe, and they both knew that this was only the beginning. Every day, every touch, every glance would continue to weave the story of two young hearts that had found each other in a world that had tried to keep them apart. And in that quiet, rain-kissed morning, as the first rays of sun illuminated their entwined forms, they both understood one undeniable truth. Their love was unstoppable, unbreakable, and entirely theirs, an eternal promise carved in the fragile yet unyielding fabric of their hearts. The days and nights that followed became a tapestry of passion, tenderness, and unshakable devotion. The mansion, once a place of rigid walls and formalities, now vibrated with the heartbeat of their love. Every room seemed infused with the memory of their whispered confessions, stolen touches, and lingering glances. Even the grandest halls, adorned with opulence, felt intimate because of the presence of the two young hearts that had claimed the space as their own. They woke each morning wrapped in each other's warmth, the first golden rays of sun illuminating her hair and the softness of his gaze as he studied her with reverent admiration. Mornings became their sanctuary. Breakfasts were shared with tender smiles and playful teasing, their hands occasionally brushing across the table, sending shivers of anticipation through them both. And when the world demanded his attention, when the weight of wealth and responsibility pulled him into meetings and obligations, she waited with quiet patience, her thoughts filled with the rhythm of their nights, their intimacy, and the promise of moments yet to come. Each evening, he found ways to remind her how cherished she was. Whether it was a bouquet of her favorite flowers placed delicately on her bedside table, a soft melody played on the piano for her alone, or a gentle hand brushing away a stray hair from her face, every gesture was deliberate, calculated in its ability to make her feel adored, protected, and irrevocably desired. And she, in turn, gave him her heart freely, offering the depth of her trust, her laughter, and the quiet confession of fears she had once hidden behind walls of solitude. Their love was not a reckless passion, but a slow-burning fire that consumed them entirely, leaving nothing untouched by its intensity. They explored each other with tenderness and reverence, learning the language of desire and devotion that was uniquely theirs. Every kiss, every caress, every whispered promise built a world where neither feared the judgment of society nor the constraints of circumstance. They were young, alive, and completely devoted to each other, creating a universe in which only the two of them existed. One evening, the air was filled with the scent of roses and the golden glow of candlelight. The mansion had emptied of servants and obligations, leaving only the soft hum of the night. He led her to the grand balcony overlooking the gardens, the stars mirrored in her eyes and reflected in the silvered paths below. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" he whispered, holding her close, his hands resting gently on her waist. She tilted her head up, curiosity mingling with the fluttering of her heart. "What do you see?" she asked softly. "I see everything I ever dreamed of and more," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I see love, devotion, hope, and a future I never believed I deserved. You've given me a life filled with meaning, with passion, with moments I thought were only found in stories. And now, I want to give you the same. Everything. All of it. Always." Tears glistened in her eyes as she pressed her forehead to his chest, feeling the steady pulse beneath her palm. "I never imagined I could be this happy," she murmured. "I never thought someone could look at me the way you do, the way you love me. And yet, here we are, and I've never wanted anything more than to be with you forever." He smiled, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. "Forever is just the beginning," he whispered, capturing her lips in a kiss that was both tender and consuming. Every second stretched into eternity, a declaration of love so profound that words could not contain it. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers, the warmth of his breath mingling with the soft whisper of her name. Their nights became legendary in their intimacy, not for reckless indulgence, but for the deep, consuming connection they shared. They discovered each other fully, exploring the depths of desire and devotion, reveling in the closeness that made their souls tremble. Every touch was an affirmation, every embrace a promise, and every whispered word a vow that nothing in the world could separate them. As seasons changed outside the mansion walls, their love only deepened. Rainy days were spent in quiet companionship, sharing books, music, and the lingering touch of hands that refused to part. Summer nights found them wandering the gardens under the moonlight, the fragrance of blooms and the soft rustle of leaves forming a symphony around their whispered confessions. They laughed freely, loved fiercely, and discovered joy in the simplest of moments, moments that became the threads of a story far richer than either had ever imagined. One morning, as the first light painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, he took her hand and led her to the balcony. The city beyond seemed insignificant, distant, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "I've been thinking," he said softly, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. "We've shared so much already, laughter, longing, passion, and trust. But there's one thing I want to promise you more than anything." She tilted her head, a soft smile playing on her lips. "What is it?" she asked, anticipation fluttering in her chest. "I promise to always choose you," he said, his voice steady, filled with unwavering devotion. "Every day, in every way. No matter what comes, no matter the storms or the challenges, I will choose you. You are my heart, my soul, my everything. And I vow to make our love unshakable, magnificent, and eternal." She felt tears slide down her cheeks, her hands clutching his as though anchoring herself to the reality of the moment. "And I promise you the same," she whispered. "I will choose you every day, in every way. Nothing in this world could make me turn away. You are my life, my love, my home." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly that the world outside ceased to exist. They kissed, a slow, tender, all-consuming kiss that carried the weight of promises made and kept, of hearts surrendered and loved unconditionally. Their souls intertwined in that instant, as if the universe itself had conspired to bring them together, to bind them with an unbreakable thread of love and devotion. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, yet every moment with each other felt like the first, the thrill, the wonder, the passion, and the tenderness never fading. Their love became a legend within the mansion, whispered about by those who glimpsed the quiet intensity of their connection, though none could truly understand the depth of what they shared. It was a love that defied convention, that transcended social boundaries, that existed purely in the sacred space they had created for themselves. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of crimson and gold, he led her to the gardens, now illuminated with the soft glow of lanterns. He dropped to one knee, holding her hands in his, eyes glistening with emotion. "I have loved you since the first moment I truly saw you," he said, his voice steady but trembling with feeling. "You have changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. And now, I want to spend every day showing you that my love is eternal. Will you be mine forever?" Her lips trembled, her hands flying to cover her mouth as tears spilled freely. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking with joy and longing. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I've always been yours, in every way, and I will be forever." He rose, pulling her into his arms, spinning her around in a dizzying, joyful embrace. Their laughter mingled with the soft evening breeze, their hearts beating as one, a rhythm that would carry them through a lifetime of mornings, evenings, challenges, and triumphs. From that moment onward, their love became unstoppable, unshakable, and magnificent. Every touch, every glance, every whisper was a testament to a bond forged in passion, nurtured in trust, and illuminated by devotion. They explored life together, facing the world not as separate individuals, but as two halves a whole, bound by a love so profound it could withstand anything. Years later, when they looked back on the path that had brought them together, the shy glances, the whispered confessions, the nights of intimacy and the quiet mornings, they would smile, knowing that their love had been rare, extraordinary, and magnificent from the very first moment. It was a love that could not be defined by society or circumstance, a love that was theirs alone, a love that would endure, ignite, and inspire for every day to come. And in the quiet of the mansion, in the glow of countless sunsets and sunrises, they lay together, hearts entwined, souls surrendered, knowing one undeniable truth. They had found in each other the greatest story ever told, the story of love, passion, and devotion that was eternal, boundless, and breathtaking in its perfection.